Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this workshop. We're delighted to be here with you today. So I'm Colleen, a Legal Solutions Director at NetDocuments, and I'm joined with Danielle, one of our solutions expert. So together we're going to show you today how modern document management systems with built-in AI are really helping law firms increase efficiency and produce high-quality work for their clients. Because the reality is that AI success does not start with a chatbot. It starts with your own data infrastructure and having proper access to your own content and expertise. So our goal for today is really that you leave this session with a clear and realistic picture of how to move from experimenting with AI to embedding it in how you work in a way that's really drives adoption, reduces risk, and delivers value from day one. So, quick introduction of us. I'm Colleen, dual qualified in the US and UK, and I was previously a senior associate at Freshfields, where I spent the better part of a decade on their capital markets team in London. And then joining me today is Danielle, our EMEA solutions expert. So, she brings nearly 2 decades of hands-on tech experience, including time on the law firm side. So, at the heart of legal practice is really the pursuit of advantage. So, a decisive edge that produces a favorable outcome for your client, strengthens your reputation, and drives your business forward. The intelligent DMS is really NetDocuments' answer to that challenge. It is the foundation for how law firms will harness their own intelligence in a competitive advantage, not just today, but as AI continues to develop and reshape how legal work gets done. So, why are we here today? Firms are at different points on this journey. Some of you may already be deep into AI adoption, others may be evaluating where to start, but that conversation tends to start in the same place, saving time, reducing admin, automating the low value tasks. And that's a legitimate place to start, and we'll talk about how to do that. But we also want to explore what comes next because we think the more important question isn't how AI makes existing work faster, but how it changes what your firm is capable of. So, law firms, the work is hard, it's complicated, high stakes, and high stress, and the challenges your firms face are far bigger than the desire to reduce busy work. They touch how you staff and train, your business model, your strategies, and how you manage change and adoption across the firm. So, our goal is to provide the kind of advantage that helps your firm excel at all of that. And although the challenges are complex, how firms succeed in the end is relatively simple. Law firms excel really when you do your best work, when the work product is reliably consistent or reliably impeccable, when they provide strategic guidance that leads to better outcomes, when you deliver superior value to your clients. And that's the simple answer, but really the complexity is in the execution because doing that consistently takes your entire organization's knowledge, skill, and collective intelligence working together. And consistency is really the key word here because anyone can do great work occasionally. The firms that differentiate themselves are the ones that do it every time. And this is the problem that NetDocs is really striving to solve. So, achieving that kind of success consistently requires your firm's collective intelligence to be centralized and accessible. Your precedents, your know-how, your policies, all in one place, ready for you to apply to the matter at hand. And it requires the tools that your lawyers reach for every day to be embedded in how they already work and not scattered across a patchwork of different platforms that really fragment the experience. And it requires connection to outside sources and specialized tools that sit outside your own knowledge base, but are often critical to the work. And that's what really the intelligent DMS is designed to do. But to deliver at that level consistently, you really need a strong data foundation. And that raises a fair question, one that we really hear often. If AI tools are widely available, and if every firm can buy the same technology off the shelf, then where does the advantage really come from? And the answer is it doesn't come from the tool, it comes from what you feed it. And what we want to talk today is what that means in practice. So this diagram is what we mean by an intelligent platform. So at the core is your proprietary data. That's your documents, your matter history, your firm's accumulated knowledge. And around that core are the layers that put that content to work. So your AI agents that can carry out tasks autonomously on your behalf. The governance controls that keep everything secure and compliant. No-code apps that let you automate workflows without needing a developer. And connectivity that integrates with the tools you're already using. And your DMS sits at the center of all of this, and that's very purposeful because it's where the majority of your firm's knowledge lives. And if you get that foundation right, then everything built on top of it works better. And of course, your firm's knowledge is only part of the picture. Legal work also depends on information that sits outside your four walls. So legal research platforms, companies house, specialized deal rooms, court filing systems. NetDocs can connect to these sources directly, and that means two things. First, your lawyers can access what they need without leaving their workflow. And second, and this is perhaps the more significant point, that external intelligence starts to inform and enrich your work product and becomes part of your firm's knowledge over time. And for those of you that operate in multiple jurisdictions, as I did, this is particularly relevant because the ability to pull in the right resources for the right jurisdictions from within a single platform removes a layer of friction that really can cost a significant amount of time. And this isn't a technical argument, it's a logical one. External tools and data sources matter, but step back and ask yourself, what is your firm's actual advantage? What really differentiates you from the firm down the street? And the answer is ultimately your intelligence, the judgments you've refined, the precedents you've built, the expertise you've accumulated over years of practice. And that's not something that a competitor can buy. And that's why your DMS is really the right foundation. It's not just a document store, it's where your intelligence lives, and it's where AI has the greatest opportunity to unlock real and lasting value. So now let's look at the strategic capabilities that allow you to harness this intelligence. There are both foundational and emerging capabilities that matter here, and we'll walk through the key areas where NetDocuments can have an impact. So across the DMS landscape, NetDoc's capabilities span a wide range from the fundamentals like versioning and security through to AI agents that can answer questions directly from your documents, purpose-built agents that can accelerate document review and revision, and workflow automation that can genuinely streamline how lawyers spend their time. But there are really two capabilities that we want to draw your attention to that tend to get overlooked. They operate beneath the surface, and so end users rarely think about them. But when they're properly implemented, they're what make everything else perform at its best. And those two capabilities are automated document classification and repository-wide semantic search. That's quite a lot of jargon, but let me break it down. So automated document classification, or AI profiling, uses generative AI to automatically apply your taxonomy to every document that enters your system. So the result is documents that are enriched with metadata that is accurate, complete, and consistent at scale. And that matters because metadata is what drives search and ultimately determines how much of your firm's intelligence is actually accessible to lawyers. And then repository-wide semantic search goes beyond keyword matching to surface meaning. So rather than returning a list of documents that contain a certain word, it finds the answer you're looking for based on the underlying meaning of that word. So for example, if a lawyer searches termination clause, semantic search will also surface documents dealing with exit provisions, break clauses, or notice periods, even though the exact words termination clause don't appear. So it understands what you're looking for, not just what you've typed. And when your metadata is consistent and complete, your search becomes dramatically more powerful, and your lawyers start finding things that they didn't know that they needed to look for. And these two capabilities together are really foundational because without them, AI interoperability is constrained. So you may have heard of the term MCP, which stands for Modern context protocol. In simple terms, it's a standard that allows different AI tools to talk to each other and share information. This is how NetDocs connects to external data sources. And you'll be hearing a lot about it because most major providers are announcing MCP servers if they haven't done so already. But the important distinction with MCP is that it solves the connectivity problem, but not the context problem. So it tells systems how to talk to each other, but it doesn't determine the quality of what they share. And that quality, the right content surfaced at the right moment across tens or hundreds of millions of documents, really depends on the classification and semantic search working underneath. And that is what we mean by the AI foundation. So AI gets most of the attention right now, but really the day-to-day experience of using your DMS still matters enormously. And I say that as a former lawyer who worked in it every day. And it's why we continue to invest heavily in the core capabilities your lawyers depend on. So on email management, the migration to new Outlook is something that many firms are navigating right now. And we're focused on making that transition as smooth as possible. But we're also looking beyond that transition and actively rethinking how email filing works, reducing the friction between how lawyers naturally work in Outlook and how matters stay complete and current, because filing should not be an administrative burden. And I'll give you a personal example of why this matters. So one day I got a call from a panicking partner asking me to help out on a deal that I hadn't been working on before. It was the day of closing, and the lead associate on this transaction had been up for 48 hours straight, and they simply fell asleep, was dead to the world, and just could not be contacted. And I was able to step in and find everything that I needed to help close this transaction because she had filed every single email along the way. And without that, I would have been starting from scratch at the worst possible moment. And that's not a technology story. That is a filing discipline story. But it illustrates exactly the kind of situation where a complete matter file stops being an administrative nicety and is really genuinely critical. And then on document bundling, we recently released the most significant update to Set Builder since its launch. And that includes expanded set sizes, meaningful performance improvements, and a number of other changes that are driven directly by customer feedback. And we're also quite pleased that we were able to release this considerably faster than we would have in the past. And that's really indicative of how our own development practices are evolving. And then finally, on user experience. Beyond speed and responsiveness, we've been systematically updating key workflows like mass upload and download. And more broadly, we're accelerating a wider rethink of the platform experience, focused really on helping lawyers get up to speed on a matter quickly, find what they're looking for intuitively, and work both efficiently and strategically without ever needing to leave NetDocuments. I just threw a lot at you, but how do you actually get started? So here's a practical way to frame your adoption journey. You crawl before you walk, and then you walk before you run. So crawl. We recommend starting with the AI assistant. It lives inside the DMS, so there's no workflow disruption and minimal onboarding. Your lawyers get instant answers from their own documents in the tools they're already using. It really is the lowest friction entry point, and it's where you start building trust in what AI can actually do for your firm. And then you walk. So once that foundation is in place, you move to no-code apps. This is where you can start to unlock workflow automation without needing a developer. Streamlining matter-specific workflows, document assembly, intake processes. You start saving time. You're beginning to activate your firm's intelligence in a structured way. And then finally, run. When your content is properly classified, searchable, and activated, you connect outwards. Legal research platforms, companies house, specialist tools, MCP becomes that interoperability layer that makes all of that possible. But as we discussed, it only performs best when classification and semantic search are working properly underneath. And this sequence matters. Your intelligence is the foundation. You then activate it with tools, and then you connect it to the wider ecosystem. And that's really the practical adoption roadmap, and it's something that you can start on tomorrow. So let's move into the demo portion, which might be the most interesting bit of this presentation. So we'll show you the intelligent DMS and what it looks like in practice to get answers from your own documents. And during this portion, we really want to encourage questions. So please feel free to put something in the chat or raise your hand. And with that, I'll turn it over to Danielle.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm going to share my screen, and that should be the one there.
Just before Danielle starts, just please do make sure you ask questions throughout, because what we want to try and do is just help you understand these platforms and how you can actually use them as part of your everyday practice. You're not going to know all the answers to this sort of stuff. So these guys are experts and they do know what they're talking about. So please do just raise your hand or just shout out as and when you need to.
Thanks, Rachel. So thanks, Colleen, for that great introduction. Now, my job is to simplify that and show you what that actually means in practice. So what does it mean to use an intelligent DMS? How do we use it? Now, I'm going to focus today on searching, editing, and repetitive workflows. Now, I'm very passionate about NetDocuments. I could be speaking about this forever, but I don't have that long. So I'm going to show you the things which I think are really beneficial. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is smart answers and search. Imagine that all of your data could speak back to you. Ultimately, that is what an intelligent DMS is. We can ask questions and not just search. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. What you're seeing right now is the NetDocuments homepage. This is like my virtual desk, and I can search up here, but I've got this Ask AI button. And what you're going to note is that at this minute, I'm not connected to a matter. I'm not connected to any, I'm not giving it any information, but I'm going to ask a question. So find me all lease agreements, if I could spell that, reference section 106. Okay. Now, it should be smart enough to know that I can actually type. There we go. And I'm going to put actually UK. Okay. So I've asked a question. Find me all lease agreements that reference UK section 106. Now, I've not asked it. I've not said I think it's called this or it's saved here or it might be named that. I've just asked a question. Now, what you're seeing is that it starts to tell me how it's going to search. And this follows on from what Colleen said. I call this AI with feelings because it's trying to get a feel for what you're asking it. So I'm asking it, find me all the lease agreements, and it's now looking things for lease, Town and Country Planning Act. So it's now trying to understand what I'm asking it. Now, this will take not very long, maybe a minute, just over, and that is searching my whole repository. So we're not just searching a matter or a folder, we're asking a question and it's searching my whole repository. Now, very quickly, it comes back. We're going to go scroll up to the top. And it's still doing it. So here we go. So it tells me it takes 46 seconds for it to do that. And it's come through and it's found all of these documents. And the great thing about it is that there's a little citation link at the end. So it tells me where it found this information from. Okay. Now I can scroll down and it starts to give me all of this information of all the leases that it's found. Now I could ask another question. Do any of these leases contain risks to the tenant? Okay. So let's put that there and do a search. So now, do any of these leases contain risks to the tenant? So now this is what we've called, I suppose, a talk track. I'm asking the system, do we have any of these types of documents? Yes, we do. Do they contain anything, any risks to the tenant? Now, this is just one talk track, but I could ask questions like, can you find me the last 5 contracts I did for this client that were over that amount? Can we find the document where there was a board meeting and we discussed X, Y, Z? So an intelligent DMS doesn't just allow you to search, it allows you to ask questions. And we're seeing that it comes back very quickly. The return is quick. Now, we're using OpenAI behind this. And one of the great things about NetDocuments AI is that we bring the AI to your content. It is safe to use the AI. It's not being learned by anyone else. It can't go away. And the chance of hallucinations are really zero because it's learning on your data. It's real time. So that's what we mean by smart answers, AI search, and ultimately being able to interact with your data. We enrich the data and we create and we make it more valuable than what it really is. Okay. So that's one way of how I could search. But let's say, for example, I'm actually in a workspace and I'm going into a meeting and I'm going to speak to a client and they want to discuss the last 5 leases, the last 4 leases that I completed for them. They have lots of questions. Okay. So I'm now going to select these leases and I'm going to click on Ask AI. Now, what you will see is that it's adding the files here. Okay. So now I'm going to say summarize all of these documents. Okay. It's late in the day, so apologies for the typing. It's I don't know what's happening today. So summarize all of these documents. Okay. Now, this was originally designed really for the professional to find a needle in a haystack. So simply that, I'm going into a meeting. I'm going to be asked all of these questions. I've been really, really busy. All my meetings have overrun. I can use this, and this is going to give me the advantage. It's going to give me a summary. It's going to give me that summary in under a minute, and I can copy this. I can paste it into a document. I can paste it into an email. But very quickly, it does that. And so again, if I scroll up, I can now see that it's took 24 seconds for it to run that summary. This is quicker than human behavior. So everything that we're showing you now, it's really around speed, giving you the advantage and allowing you to maybe ask questions and search the data in a way that you've never comprehended before. Okay. Now, we have lots of clients that work with our products, and our clients came back to us and said, the editor, Ask AI is great. It would be even greater if we could use it in Word. So that is what we designed. We listened to our clients and we designed that. So here I've got a share purchase agreement and I've got my editor on the right-hand side. Now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Now I've just said, add the buyer's company number and address, add a new act of God clause and delete all square brackets. Now, apologies, I'm not a lawyer, so I'd imagine that Colleen might have had much more creative questions or edits that she wanted to ask, but ultimately just to show you the type of thing that it can do. So now it's generating suggestions, and very quickly you can see that it's created a new clause, and it's gone through and it's deleted all the square brackets. Now, the great thing about this is that I can turn on track changes if I want, and I can click apply all, and it will apply it directly into my document. So again, this is NetDocuments listening to our clients saying, we like this, it would be great if we could do this. And so this is the natural evolution, and you can see where it started to cross things out. Okay. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was AI profiling and taxonomy. Okay. And apps. What does that actually mean? Now, I'm going to show you something on the screen. I've got some documents here, and they're just lease agreements, but none of this information is complete. Okay, it's empty. Now, ultimately, if every time you was presented with a form and you had to complete all of these fields when you created a document, the likelihood is that you won't do it. You'll try and bypass that or try and find a way around it because we're busy. We can't keep completing these forms every time we create a document. So that's what AI profiling does. When you save a document, it says, oh, this is a lease agreement. I need to go and extract this data, and it goes and it enriches your data. So what does this look like? We do this, I'm just going to close that for a second, by doing the AI document classification. So we would classify specific documents, not all of them, because not every single one needs to be AI profile, but specific ones. And so if I was to choose, for example, a service agreement, you'll see here that I can search on service agreements with a governing law or the value of that service agreement. Now, the reason why I can search on all of those things is because of AI profiling. Now, I'm going to select a document and I just want to show you the profile of what AI profiling does. So you can see here that AI has picked up all of this information. It's done an AI document summary. It's extracted the effective dates, parties. It's speaking about notice for termination. We have AI profiling set up where it can do risk analysis. So you can save a document and it can check the document on save and tell you whether something needs to be changed. There's so many things that you can do with this. And ultimately, this is what we mean by enriching data, because now this is all content that I can search on.
The way that I really like to think about it is like this is the catalog for a library. Like if you're going out to try and find a book in a library, you can find it. It's going to take you a long time, and AI can do that without the metadata. But with the metadata, it's much more accurate and much faster.
Definitely. Now, the last things I want to show you is around our ND Max Studio. Now, these are apps. We have 33 at the moment. They're growing by the day, and they're built by NetDocuments consultants. So some of them, like Colleen, have been lawyers, and so they have great knowledge and use cases for us to build these apps. And ultimately, these are designed for anything that's taking too long. If you're spending a long time doing something, we can create an app and it can speed up that process. Okay, so it allows you to focus on the things, or more billable things perhaps, rather than focusing on admin things that just waste time. So how does it work? I'm going to take you through just a couple of apps just to give you a feel for what they do. Now, I've got one here called a contract risk analysis. And ultimately, how this works is that I receive a contract or a document from outside and I run it through this app. So I'm going to do exactly that. So I've got a document here. And then it asks me, what type of document is this? So this is a supplier vendor agreement, and I'm going to click continue. Now, here's one that I created earlier. But ultimately, once you've done that, this is the output that you get. So now it's gone through the document and it starts to do a risk assessment. Now, this is what we mean by an intelligent DMS. This is, this is what saves time. This is what reduces admin, being able to get a contract, run it through an app, and then straight away see the actions or see the points that perhaps need your attention. Now, we've also got a different way of doing this. And again, I'm going to go into a different workspace to do this. We have another app, which we call the issues list. Now, this is really popular because this uses playbooks. So if you do have golden standards, precedents, you can create playbooks and then we can use them in this app. And what this will do, this will analyze a document against your golden standard. So again, I'm going to search for a document. Here's my document here. And then I can choose my playbook. Now you could have these per client, different areas of law, different types of documents. It's really up to you. But what it will do now is it's going to load the playbook. So it loads the playbook and says, I'm going to use this to do the analysis. Make sure. And then once it's loaded, you get all the playbooks here. I can edit these and I can start to see what is the preferred position of the company and what is the fallback. So I can see all this information. I can change it if I want to, but ultimately when I finished, I click continue. Now, the output for that is that it goes through and it will tell me if there is a change that is required. Now, it gives a recommendation, so it explains why this change is being made, and then it gives the suggested text. And I think Colleen and I, we did a session before, and I learned this from Colleen, that I didn't realize the value of actually explaining why it needs to be changed rather than just saying you need to change it.
Because if you think in practice, it's going to be a junior or the mid-level associate using these tools. And so it helps to educate them as to, why a contract reads that particular way. And training lawyers is going to be all the more crucial in this new AI-enabled world. And so it is something that we're increasingly thinking about how to incorporate into our tools.
Yep. And I think a great use case for this before I wrap up is that if you are a senior member of staff and you have to manage junior members, you could use this by checking people's work. But again, if you wanted to make trainees and juniors more self-sufficient and to act in line with how your firm acts, they could use these apps to check their own work to make sure that they're doing certain things. So there's so many use cases for it. And again, this is what we mean by the intelligent DMS. It's really around us trying to look at those workflows and look at those different things that we do. Now, the last app I'm going to show you before I end this demonstration is a document generator. Now, I wanted to show you this simply because just to show you what apps are capable of. Now, I can create a document and I can use data that's stored in a matter or in a data table, which we've got here. And I can have this could be connected to Active Directory list, or I can do all these different things, but I'm just going to say new cell. And I'm going to say, yes, I want a retainer, and click continue. Now, the great thing about this is that this is going to create a document for me using my firm template. Now, I just want to show this in NetDocuments just so you can see what it's actually doing. So if I go into the preview, oh, it's open, there we go. You can see that here's my template, it's got logos in it, we've got controls here, and it's gone through and it's created my document. So this is what we mean by an intelligent DMS. There's lots of things that we can do with this. We can do this in apps, we can do this on matter creation. There's lots of ways, but hopefully I've given you a taste and an understanding of what it means to work in an intelligent DMS. And that is all from my side. So thank you very much for everybody. I'm going to stop sharing now and see if there's any questions.
Yes, I have a question. In terms of getting the documents into NetDocs, I heard you say something about you bring your system to us. Does that mean you can somehow plug into our drives, and then so we don't have to upload our documents into your system, or do we still have to upload everything?
Yes, well, you wouldn't have to upload. We would do all that for you. So ultimately, a migration process, it would be that one of our partners would do an analysis on your data, check your data, make sure that we understand how the data is put together, and then we would migrate that data over. It's that migration part that will go through the data, semantically index, OCR, so now everything becomes searchable. So things like scanned documents, photographs, handwritten, everything now becomes searchable and you can do a lot more with it. And that's part of the migration process. So we would need to still migrate your data in order for it to work.
I mean, would we need to sort of identify, because in a way I can understand the better system would be to identify your really good opinions, really good skeleton arguments, and then there's a lot of stuff in the drives which will just be correspondence, which is kind of in a sense rubbish stuff that you wouldn't want to rely on. So is that what you have to do at the beginning? You have to identify the stuff that you want to go into your library, as it were, or can you just dump everything in and then somehow it'll work, notwithstanding all the rubbish that's there?
No, it's a really good question. So when you work with we work with partners that do your implementation and they work and they build your product. So really it's led by you. We do a lot, or the partners do a lot. So they work with your data. Like there may be duplicate data that doesn't need to come over. There may be data that's archived and we don't need to touch that data, but just bring it over as it is. And it may be that there's some data that we need to do extra things with. So there is a process where your data and what you have now is analyzed, and then we find the best way how to bring that over and in which way to bring that over. So everybody has so much different scenarios. They have data in lots of different places, or they may have merged companies. And so again, there has to be an analysis done on how the best way to bring the data over. But you don't actually have to do anything other than really tell us how you want your system to be and what you want to achieve. And then we work from that.
I think there's also a separate question of, what is in the DMS and then what do you make accessible in terms of semantic search? Because if you have associates looking for documents, you don't want them finding a draft that might be outdated or, not the gold standard. And so in terms of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, like you can go down quite to a granular level if you want to make certain things like not accessible to AI or to semantic search. So you can say like, semantic search can only surface the final draft. It can't search the all the interim drafts of the document, or you can, wall off old documents that might be contain outdated law so that what's being surfaced is only the most current and accurate drafts.
That's correct.
And then if we provide, say, I mean, one of the things that I mean, I've done this manually over the years. I've got them all in hard copy or they're scanned,
Yeah.
And they're in boxes. But we would. Who does the sort of the scanning? Would we have to scan it and send it to you, or how does it work? And do you do the OCR conversion?
So we do everything.
Or do
So
that?
usually what happens is you speak with a partner and the first thing they're going to ask you is how much data do you have? Where is your data stored currently? And how is it put together? That determines a lot. That determines how that's migrated, what they need to do, if they need to change anything. So really the partners are the ones that's going to speak to you and look at what you've got, and then it's their direction. It may be that you don't need to do anything. It may be that they ask you, can we do this? But it's really that relationship with your partner. They won't just come in and lift and shift. There's a lot of work and that they do with you to make sure that you're happy with this process and that everything's being migrated in the way that you want it. So it's not
So this
just a quick
stage is
fix.
really about getting your good precedents into NetDocs. That's the
Yep,
first
I mean,
stage. Yep.
so we have some clients that want to bring everything over. I've just worked with a client that's migrating everything over, but they've got a whole archive database of data that nothing can be changed in that because of law. So we're going to bring everything over, but this whole piece of data will migrate over, but it will just be lift and shift, but the rest we'll do things with. So there's so many different scenarios. The best thing is to have the conversation with the partner that you're working with, and then they will go into detail about what that looks like for you.
And where is the data stored then once it goes into NetDocs?
Great question. So we have 5 data centers. We have one in the UK, one in Germany, 2 in America, and one, I believe, is in Singapore. And so most of our European clients, they are using the German data center, and the UK data center. So ultimately, that is where the data is stored.
And then in terms of charging, is it dependent on the amount of data you put in, or is it just a flat fee no matter what goes in?
Yep, so it's licensed per user. And each user gets a certain amount of data, but ultimately we've never had a scenario where we have a client that runs out of data allowance. It's very rare. That I don't think it's ever happened, to be fair. So it's done on a monthly per user, and ultimately there's different layers. So we have some clients that want the Ask AI assistant but don't want anything else, and we have some clients that want everything. So it's really, as Colleen said, some clients it's a big step changing your DMS and then including AI. So some firms prefer to just start off with Ask AI first, do the migration, and then generally they increase. But some firms, they just want to do the big bang. They want everything. So it's really, again, it's led by you, it's led by the client on what it is that you need. If we felt after demonstrating to you and speaking to you that you didn't need everything, maybe you just needed Ask AI, we would advise that. We wouldn't advise you to take something that we don't think you're going to need.
And then can you use AI to help prepare, do discovery and do lists of documents?
Yes.
Or is that a different function?
No, so at the moment we have 33 apps, but we build our own apps. So we have clients that have actually got apps on their website that connect directly to NetDocuments. So when clients go on the website and input data, it gets fed straight back to us. We have, I just worked with an investment company that wanted me to design an app that scanned hedge funds. So it would scan a hedge fund, extract the data and put it into a template and then check whether it met the criteria to be passed to the next stage. They were spending hours doing that, and we built an app and it takes 2 minutes now to do it. So yes, the answer is that we can build those things. We're able to build that, and they're codeless. So if you're self-sufficient, we can train you and you can do it yourself, or we can do it.
So, for example, if we do sort of a simple thing like debt collection, but you've got lots to do at one time, if I give you a spreadsheet that has all the details, the name, address, and can you just feed that spreadsheet into NetDocs and then produce 200 demand letters?
Yes.
Can.
Yeah, so you could build an app that says extract all the addresses from here and then go and put this address in this template and generate it however many times. And so again, to be fair, with AI, it's really easy to build apps. Even the other day, I had an AE that was going to Lithuania, and they asked me to add the Lithuanian language to an app. It took me 2 minutes to just go into the app, add it, and it was as quick as that. There's no code. I didn't have to spend hours. I literally went into the app, typed something, and gave it to her, and then it worked. So it really is. It's a different concept, because traditionally there's lots of code, lots of workflows, lots of different connectors. Things don't work. It can be very stressful. This really is a new way of working, a much more simpler way, but a more effective way.
So can you sorry?
Oh, go ahead.
Go on. I've been talking too much.
The apps are really quite a powerful tool, because it really can take a specific workflow like the one that you just mentioned and create a tool that helps you really streamline the process. And it can be quite customizable. You can create very specific ones for a task like that. So the NetDocs approach is we've created a suite of 33 apps that we call them lowest common denominator apps to kind of help most law firms, and that's included in the ND Max suite, but then you can go on and build custom ones.
So if, say, we were doing a court case and we put in every single document that had ever been filed in that litigation, and you got to the appeal stage, would you then be able to say, based on these documents and the judgments, draft me a first draft of a notice of appeal and grounds of appeal?
Yes. And
really?
You could do a timeline. Yep. So what a use case that's coming up quite a lot, and this is both in corporate and legal, is that when they're finishing a project or finishing a case, sometimes the case could go on for 3 years. When it's finished, they have to compile this big report on all of those documents and that case that they've just done for 3 years, and that could take sometimes hours or days. And so we actually created a timeline app where you can actually, you could even go even further and build an app that says, scan this workspace and give me a timeline of events. So that type of thing, or generate a report, give me a summary. So really, it's really around that. That's a really good use case. Anything that takes a long time, anything that requires you to do multiple steps, multiple approval process, anything like that, we can use an app for it. We can even use an app for matter creation. But ultimately, there's lots of things that we can do with it, and it's really for workflows that take a long time. Brilliant questions, by the way. Thank you. We love questions. So,
does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask to Colleen or Danielle? I will take your silence as a no. Does that answer all of your questions, Cherry, by the way?
Sure, I'll think of something afterwards.
Well, if you do think
I
of
did
something...
actually, believe it or not, I did sign up for an AI course on the weekend that just popped up. I did 20 minutes and I'm already behind because I missed the lesson yesterday.
Well, if you do think of something, I'm sure they'll be happy for you to get in touch with them.
Actually, I do have one quick question. What's the amount of data that a user has? You said that there's a lot of data. What is the amount that you get per user?
I need to check. Is it something like 6? Is it 6? I need to check. Let me confirm that, because I think there was a slight change. I wouldn't want to quote and it's incorrect. So what I will do, I'm going to go and get that exact figure, and then I'm going to pass that on to Annie, and someone will get back to you and confirm that.
Actually, I do have another question.
No, that's
if
fine.
You have, if one of the annoying things with litigation, you know how we have emails now, and you have a chain of emails. You might have 20 emails in that chain. Do you have an app that can split those emails and then put the documents into chronological order chronologically? because it's a lot easier for a judge when you're in court to be able to read through the correspondence chronologically rather than having to flip back and forth.
I get what you mean, like
to the
a
back
feed.
of the chain. Yeah.
Oh, I get what you mean, like a feed. So there's two things here. With NetDocuments, there's something that we have called conversation filing. So if that's turned on, that when you file an email, each reply back and forth is automatically filed to that file. So that's what's creating an email chain, right? Because every reply will keep just filing back to it. If you turn that off, then ultimately each email, you would have to save each one, but you'd never have like a feed of emails. Does that make sense? So ultimately, conversation filing, when I file an email, every reply that goes back and forth is just going to keep updating that one file. So I get this long feed. But if I turned it off, then when I save an email, it just saves the email. The reply I'd have to save separately. Does that make sense? So ultimately, we could make a tweak so you don't even have that problem. But I would need to test that. I would need to test the AI. Would it be able to take an email document and then separate it out and run? I'm actually going to make a note of that, Sherry, because I'm going to test it.
So,
that's the first time someone's asked me about that.
It's very useful to have the what's the word used? A conversation. So if you have the chain, because when you're actually working, you want the chain right there in front of you. You don't want to have to go into lots of different emails. So you want to keep the chain intact, as it were. But when you get to court, what is more useful for a judge is to split that, whatever, what do you call it? Chain. Yeah, you split and then they're ordered chronologically, because then you read them through. Because otherwise, when you print 20 pages of an email chain that's run over 10 days, when you're in court, you're having to ask the judge to go back and forth. So I kind of want to have both. I want to keep the original chain intact, but then for the purpose of preparing a bundle for court, I'd like to be able to split them so that you can organise them chronologically, one by one.
I'm very confident, but I want to test it first. So I'm confident that it could do that, but I've never tested something like that. So I'd like to test it and make sure that it does work. I'm confident that it will, but I'd like to test it first. But it's a great use case, because absolutely that makes sense. Like, we have designed things. So for example, we had clients that said that when they have to upload documents to court, what they're finding is that they have to download everything locally and then go and upload it to the court website. So we have ND Click. If you activate ND Click, now when you go to upload to a court website, it will connect directly to NetDocuments. So that removes that having to save it locally. I just click and it just directly goes to NetDocuments. So there's lots of different things. And, I don't have that much time. I would love to show you everything, because there's like things like Set Builder and Collab Spaces. All of these things I think would be great for you. But yes, I'm going to go and test that. That's a great use case. And I think it's definitely worth testing.
Yes, can you cull duplications?
In email.
Does that happen automatically?
Yes, on email. So email does a deduplication. So when an email comes in, there's a code connected to the Outlook email. And so once you save that, it won't allow you to save the same email multiple times in the same location. It uses that code. So if we all receive the email and Annie's the first person to save it, it will show for saved for all of us. We all see the indicator and we all see where Annie saved it. So yes, email, that's already built into the product. That's automatic.
And that code that she's talking about appears in Outlook as well. Like, it'll be a little note next to the subject. So it's very well integrated with Outlook.
Brilliant. Great questions, Sherry. Thank you so much for these questions. I've got your details. I am going to go and test these, and I'm going to get back to you to confirm whether or not this works, because I think it's worth doing that.